Man, it's good. Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here to explain to you why I hate amp sims and why they can kind of hurt your productions if you're not careful. Let's dive into it. All right, so without any further ado, I'm gonna dive into the 4 main reasons why I kinda hate amp sims and why you should really watch out when using these tools within your productions. Reason number 1, modern day amp sims use up way too much CPU, and I don't understand why. Because if I'm being honest, amp sims have sounded pretty much the same for the last decade. Yes, they look prettier, they have more features, but it's kind of ridiculous how much CPU they all eat up, especially when you have multiple guitar tracks in a production. I'll often use my old X50 plugin that both sounds great and is extremely light on CPU. A lot of times I'm stuck loading plugins that clients are using, a lot of the modern amp sims, and to be honest with you, they don't really sound much better than the old ones, and they are so CPU hungry. This is why I always recommend printing your amp sims once you've picked your tone and you are ready to mix. Nothing is worse than when your computer crashes or your CPU spikes when you're in the middle of mixing a track. Reason why I am not a fan of amp sims, number 2, is that most amp sims these days feature way too many bells and whistles. 5,000 different impulse responses. You can move the microphone, which can sometimes be cool. 1 million different stomp boxes. 1,000 different amps and cabs. How does anyone get any work done? I'm the kind of person, I find what works and I stick with it. Yes, it's always good to experiment once in a while. The large majority of people that I talk to, especially beginners, get caught in this endless loop, auditioning different sounds, constantly upgrading to the newest amp sim plugin. And I know this because I get emails on a daily basis of people asking me what I think of the Archetype Gorgira. Is that a thing? Archetype Gorgira plugin? I think it is. The STL, the Kemper, the Axe-Fx, the Helix. I know some of these are hardware units, but all of this can kind of apply to those as well. And the truth is, back in the day, if you went into a studio, you had a handful of amps and you learned them very well and you cut your record and recorded your music without having to overthink it. And I try to apply the exact same approach even when using amp sims myself. And that's why I use very old amp sims, because I know them well and they still sound great. Reason number 3 why I don't like amp sims. They are loaded with terrible presets. Now, I can't speak for every single amp sim under the sun and every single developer, but a lot of the presets that I have come across personally are pretty much unusable. They're cool for like textures or maybe a special effect, but for the large majority of what I want, which is a great rhythm guitar tone, I almost never come across a great sounding preset. And again, what I hate about this is this really screws things up for beginners. I mean, you'd think when you buy a new amp sim plugin, if it's saying X band uses this tone or X guitar player uses this tone, you would think it would be pretty sick. But in my experience, rarely the case. Now, if you are one of the lucky ones out there that seems to have good luck using stock presets and they sound amazing in your productions, keep doing what you're doing. I just haven't been that lucky personally. Okay, and the biggest reason of all why I am not a fan of amp sims is there are just way too many options out there. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, there are so many different amp sim companies, amp sim plugins, amp modelers. It gives me anxiety, honestly. And I have to say this, as a YouTube and content creator, I have companies hitting me up constantly. Every other week, there is a new amp sim company that's trying to sell their product. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure all of these products are amazing, but how many do we really need? Like I've said, in my opinion, amp sim sounded great over a decade ago. And I think now we are just kind of repackaging and reselling the same stuff over and over again. I'm not saying that they're not more advanced and they don't have more features, but for me, I haven't come across anything that has completely knocked my socks off. My old TSC X50, when paired with a great impulse response, sounds like a real 5150. And if it sounds like a real 5150, how much better can it get than that? Unless amp sims start sounding better than the real thing. In my opinion, even a free amp sim paired with the right IR sounds great and sounds like a well-recorded real amp. Now, I know this video is titled Why I Hate Amp Sims, and it is true, I do hate them in a way, but I also love amp sims and I use them in almost all of my productions. For me, amp sims are just a tool and you have to use them wisely. Problem is, so many home studio owners don't even know where to start or where to focus their attention properly to achieve pro level results with their music. And it's sad because these days you really don't need a lot of gear. You just need to have the knowledge and the know-how and the system to achieve the results that you really want to achieve. Most of us get caught falling down rabbit holes and making the same mistakes that so many others make, and I don't want this for you. I want you producing professional results with the gear that you're currently using. And because of this, I'm offering you direct access for absolutely free right now to my in-depth training, 4 dead simple ways to massively improve your recordings and mixes. In this training, you'll learn my #1 technique for prepping heavy guitar tracks that virtually mix themselves. You'll also learn how to create instantaneous clarity within your mixes using any old stock EQ plugin. I also show you how to take control over the levels within your mix so that instruments stop fighting one another. And then finally, you'll learn how to craft radio-ready vocals using only stock plugins. Now, a word of warning, if you have the attention span of a squirrel, this training is not for you. It's extremely in-depth, it's almost an hour long, and it's only meant for people who are actually serious to do what's necessary to improve their recordings and mixes. Again, the training is absolutely free right now, and you can have direct access by clicking the link below in this video's description. Now keep your eye on the channel because the next video that I will be releasing will explain to you why I actually love amp sims, and in most cases, I actually prefer them over real tube amps. Pretty crazy, I know. Till next time, drink that Spindrift.